Ladies, let me tell you something real that might just shift the way you handle your relationships forever. When a man starts pulling away from you, when the good morning texts stop, when the calls slow down, when his energy changes like night and day, don't panic. Don't run after him. Don't start begging for attention. And for the love of yourself, don't shrink just to fit into the space he's walking out of. See, when a man goes silent, it doesn't always mean you did something wrong. Sometimes it ain't even about you at all. It's a storm going on in his mind, not yours. But here's the kicker: how you respond in that silence will speak louder than anything you've ever said to him. It's not always a breakup. Sometimes it's a test, not the type you study for, no textbooks, no cheat sheets. This one, it's testing your confidence, your peace, your self-respect. It's asking, will you fold or will you stand tall? Because relationships ain't just about who texts first or who says, I love you more. It's about emotional balance. It's about how much of yourself you're willing to keep, even when someone else starts slipping away. And let me tell you something real. When a man pulls back, he's watching. Maybe not consciously, but he's observing your reaction. Will you chase him down? Will you start questioning your worth because he's gone distant? Or will you step back, keep your head high, and remember who the hell you are? There is a deep, quiet kind of strength in staying composed, in not blowing up his phone, in choosing peace over panic. Power doesn't always scream. It sometimes just stays silent and unbothered. When he pulls away, don't crumble. Don't doubt your beauty, your worth, your essence. Use that silence as your stage, because this is the moment you show what you're made of, not for him, but for you. You don't need to convince anyone to choose you. You need to choose yourself when others hesitate. And here's the truth nobody tells you. Most men don't even realize they're testing you. It ain't always planned. It's not always a game. Sometimes it's their own fears, their past trauma, their uncertainty about love. But even in that confusion, what they do notice is how unshaken you remain. Is your confidence tied to his affection? Or is it rooted deep in your spirit, unmoved whether he stays or goes? Let me say this one more time so it sinks in. A man who disappears is also learning how strong you are when he's not clapping for you. And baby, if you can shine without the spotlight, then trust me, you're the kind of woman no man forgets. Understand his silence. When a man goes silent, it's not always about you, but it will always affect you. That silence feels like a void, like a question that never got asked out loud, but still demands an answer. You start replaying everything you said, everything you did, everything you didn't do. And in that swirl of confusion, you make the biggest mistake most women make. You assume the silence means rejection. You assume it means the love is gone. But sometimes this silence is not rejection, it's reflection. And it's time you understood what that silence actually says. See, men are wired differently. When they're hurt, when they're overwhelmed, when they're unsure, their first response is to pull away. They go inside themselves. It's not because they don't care. It's because they don't know how to communicate what they're feeling. But that don't mean you sit around in agony trying to decode the mystery. What you got to do is understand that his silence is a language. And it's not always your job to translate it. It's your job to listen with wisdom, not with desperation. Let me tell you something. When a man goes quiet, he's either hiding something or healing from something. He's either trying to get clarity or trying to avoid confrontation. That silence could be fear. It could be guilt. It could be confusion. It could even be a test to see how you respond when he retreats. But here's the kicker: his silence is speaking volumes. And it's saying, I don't have the capacity to deal with this right now. Now, whether that's fair or not, that's not for you to carry. But what is for you to do is step back and say, this ain't about me. This is his inner war, not mine. But don't you dare confuse understanding with tolerating. Just because you recognize that he's silent because of stress or immaturity or confusion doesn't mean you accept that as the standard. You can understand a storm without standing in the rain. You can have empathy without abandoning your own needs. His silence may be part of his process, but you're not required to suffer in silence right alongside him. That's not love. That's emotional self-destruction. Now let's be real. Some men go silent because they're cowards. They don't want to say it's over. They don't want to admit they've met someone else. They don't want to deal with the guilt of breaking your heart, so they disappear hoping you'll be the one to end it. And girl, if that's the case, let me save you some time. You don't chase someone who doesn't have the guts to be honest. If his silence is a shield for betrayal, then his absence is your blessing in disguise. But some men go silent because they're fighting their own demons. They've been raised to suppress, not express. And when life hits them, they isolate instead of communicate. It don't make it right, but it does make it real. And in those moments, your job is not to fix him, it's to fix your focus. You don't try to pull him out of that dark space. You hold your space. You keep shining. You keep building. You keep rising. Because sometimes your strength in silence inspires him to find his voice. Understanding his silence means you stop internalizing his distance as a verdict against your worth. Sis, his quietness is not a mirror. Don't let it reflect your insecurities. Instead, let it reflect your strength. Let it show you that you can sit in discomfort without losing your dignity. Let it teach you patience, not passivity. Let it remind you that your peace doesn't come from how loudly a man loves you, but from how deeply you love yourself when the noise fades. Let me say this loud and clear. His silence doesn't mean the story is over, but it does mean you need to pay attention. Because silence changes things. It either breaks the bond or builds the clarity and the choice of what you do with that space. That's all on you. So the next time he stops calling, stops texting, pulls away, and leaves you in emotional limbo, don't just react. Reflect. Observe. Listen. Understand that you can't control his behavior, but you can always control your response. And that's where your power lies, not in decoding his silence, but in defining your own voice through it. Stop doing this if he ignores you. When a man starts ignoring you, whether it's the slow fade, the dry text, the unread messages, or the sudden silence, there's one thing you need to do immediately: stop reacting emotionally. Because too many women, when they feel ignored, fall into a trap that only digs them deeper into disrespect. And that trap looks like overcompensating. It looks like chasing. It looks like calling 10 times, sending long emotional paragraphs, stalking his stories, trying to post something sexy to get a reaction. And let me tell you something, sis, it never works. What you got to understand is this: when a man ignores you, it's not your cue to prove your worth. It's your cue to protect your peace. But too many of you do the opposite. You think if you explain yourself better, if you call him out, if you just remind him how amazing you are, he'll snap out of it and come running. But that's not how it works. You can't talk a man into loving you. You can't text him into being consistent. And you sure can't beg your way back into his priorities. Begging for attention is beneath you. So the very first thing you need to stop doing if he ignores you is stop giving him the spotlight in your life. Don't let his absence dominate your mind, your day, your confidence. Because every time you send another message, hoping for a reply, you're silently telling yourself, I'm not enough without his validation. That's not love, that's self-abandonment. And baby, you were enough before he ever laid eyes on you. Let's go even deeper. Stop overanalyzing his silence. Stop trying to decode every little thing. If he left you on read, don't spend 2 hours trying to figure out if he's mad, if he's playing games, if he's testing you. No. Stop creating imaginary scenarios that only drain you mentally and emotionally. You deserve clarity, not confusion. And if he's not man enough to give you answers, then your silence is the only answer you need to give back. Stop venting to everyone about him. Your girlfriends don't need to hear another chapter of this roller coaster. Every time you tell the same story again and again, you're reinforcing your own heartbreak. You're making his ignorance the main character in your life, and he ain't earned that role. Instead, start talking about your goals, your plans, your peace. Reclaim the narrative. Don't make his silence the loudest voice in your world. Stop lowering your standards just to stay in his lane. Some of you are adjusting your boundaries, compromising your values, just to stay connected to a man who won't even respond to a good morning text. You stop requiring effort. You stop expecting respect. You start convincing yourself that maybe you're asking for too much. No, sis. You're not asking for too much. You're asking the wrong person. And stop showing him that his absence has power. That's what he wants, whether he realizes it or not. He wants to see if you'll fall apart, if you'll lose your cool, if you'll chase. Because the more you do, the more he pulls away. Why? Because he sees he's still in control. And when a man feels like he can disappear and still have you waiting, he loses respect. Fast. Respect is not built through access. It's built through boundaries. Stop giving 100% to someone who's giving you silence. Stop treating him like a king when he's treating you like a placeholder. Stop trying to remind him of your value, because the right man won't need reminders. He'll see it, honor it, and rise to meet it. You don't prove your worth by doing more. You prove your worth by doing less strategically. You pull back. You get quiet. You get busy. Because that right there is how you shift the power back into your hands, not with drama, not with games, but with grace.